Welcome to episode 220 of the Digital Tourism Show. In this episode, I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Deborah of East Cambusmoon Holiday Cottages, which are situated on the banks of Loch Lomond here in Scotland. Now, Deborah will be discussing how she has grown her business to become a successful accommodation business, but with sustainability in mind. So if you are interested in sustainability and are looking to grow that part of your business, this is an episode you do not want to miss. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So I'm going to just come out and ask, tell us about how you got first started in the business and why you decided to start up the cottages.
One of the folks I was chatting to just now was saying, how long have you been in hospitality? And I've only been in hospitality as long as I've had the cottages. My background is a professional chartered surveyor. I'm a planning and development specialist. Got a lot of background in commercial property development and also in renewable energy projects. So my husband and I still have a renewable energy company. And in terms of the cottages, in 2006, we bought a 4-acre farmsteading in Gartocharn, south side of Loch Lomond. And we wanted to build a house. So we demolished the existing farmhouse, which was pretty derelict anyway, and built our house. But it was an eco house. I find eco a funny old word actually. It's sort of environmentally conscious building is what we were doing. But we worked hard with an architect and building team, and what we created for us, for our family, was a house that is warm the whole year round, really low running costs in terms of energy, comfortable, huge big windows, very light, and fitted with a landscape. And then a few years later, after we recovered from that, because we did the living in a static caravan, Grand Designs thing, through a hard winter, I will never, ever have a caravan holiday, ever, ever. But we had some very tired farm buildings, some red sandstone and blockwork farm buildings. And we spoke to the planning authority, which is National Park. We worked with the same architect, the same builders, and created 2 holiday cottages. So one's 2-bedroom, one's 4-bedroom. And what we wanted to create was really the sort of place that we as a family would like to stay in. So the environmental credentials were really important, but actually fundamentally it had to be a comfortable, warm, smart place to stay. So that's really how I got into being a holiday cottage owner, and that was 7.5 years ago we started trading.
Wow, excellent.
So, yeah.
Well done for getting past it up to 7 years, that's great. So you mentioned there about the owner of an energy company, and you are the owner of Lomond Energy, and you're also a board member on the Loch Lomond board.
Yep.
So you always have a passion for both Loch Lomond and green, sort of green tourism. So, with over tourism being such a hot topic right now, how do you see Scotland's role in developing and making tourism more eco-friendly going forward? How do you see our role in it?
Over-tourism is a really funny word actually, because it's used widely, but it can mean so many things. And actually sometimes it's about management of hotspots. And one of the things we can all do as businesses and individuals is look beyond those hotspots. So at the end of June, I had a holiday in Skye with the family. And a few people went, oh, you're not going to Skye, are you? Oh, it's busy, it's over tourist. And we rented a cottage. I did book a couple of restaurants a long time ahead because I knew they would be over busy, they would be booked up. But we didn't go to the fairy pools. We drove past the fairy pools. We stopped, we walked, we had fantastic days out without ever feeling that Skye was mobbed. Skye's the second largest island in the UK. Everyone has an individual responsibility to actually step beyond top 10 places on TripAdvisor, Instagram, wherever, and go and explore, explore beyond the car park. And in Scotland, we actually, there's a lot of really good stuff happening in terms of climate change agenda. It's one of the most assertive countries in the world in terms of setting targets and looking at how those targets can be delivered. We've got electric vehicle charging points at our cottages. Scotland's really well placed, is doing a really good job of having EV charging points around the whole country. There's more to be done, but actually it's doing a good job. And I think what we need to do is tell the story of that some more. So yeah, ecotourism, environmentalism, let Scotland be a place that shines for its natural and cultural heritage. But, you know, we maybe need to just move people away from the hotspots a wee bit. Near us, there's Devil's Pulpit.
Great place, love it.
Great place. It is atmospheric. How many people do you want to share that atmosphere with? Because actually you don't want 50 people in your shot. You want it to be you, the scenery, your shot.
It's not the easiest place to get to either.
No,
So.
and that's, again, individual responsibility. So mountain rescue are probably down there once a week at the moment because, you know, in wet weather, it's very slippy, people will be going in flip-flops, whatever. You know, that is an over-tourism thing, but we all need to talk individually about what we're doing, how we're travelling, decisions we're making about where to go, what to see. And it's not a case of avoiding all those headline grabbers, but maybe, you know, as a tourism accommodation provider, it's pointing out that coffee shop, you know, stop, let's have some more slow tourism and just absorb more of the places that we have got and just explore beyond the headlines, I think.
No, I can't agree more. But actually, last month, when we spoke to Andy from Open Road, for anyone who was here, he's looking to bring on electric campervans.
Yeah.
But obviously a lot of people want to do the North Coast 500 and there isn't the charging points haven't got quite there yet in terms of along that route, but he's seen a big improvement in that. So
there are quite a few along NC 500, but people who aren't used to EVs probably need to be confident that it works for them. I drive an electric car. I wouldn't go back to anything else because, you know, once you've done that, once you've sussed how and when to charge, most people charge overnight. So our cottages, our guests who come with EVs, which is about 10 to 20% of our guests now, love the fact that they can go out all day, come back, plug in, charge, ready to go again in the morning. You know, that's what people want, I think.
Excellent. I've already decided myself my next car is going to be an electric one, so we'll do that. So East Cambusmoon, well done, you got a gold star in green tourism, which, to be honest, with your background, shouldn't be a shouldn't be a surprise for anyone. But for anyone here or any of our listeners or viewers on the video are looking to change their business to become more eco-friendly, I don't like using that term, but eco-friendly, what steps should they start to take? What advice can you give them to set them on that journey?
Do you know, there's heaps of advice out there. So actually what we all need to do is change one habit. So whether you're an office-based tourism agency like you guys or a tour operator or an accommodation provider, look at what you're buying. So whether that's energy, you know, choose a green energy supply. There's heaps of them around now. Years ago, it used to be called alternative energy, and it's not. It's mainstream. You know, renewable energy is mainstream. So choose your energy provider. If you are doing building works, make choices about insulation, solar panels, or heating systems, do all of that. And the other great thing for anyone is look at your purchasing. So how, what, and where you buy from. So whether it's milk for your office or paper or loo rolls, exciting loo rolls. You know, in Glasgow, we've got Green City Whole Foods. Now, I don't buy very much food because we're self-catering, but all those consumables like cleaning materials, you know, Green City Whole Foods, the workers' cooperative, if I buy from them, it sort of benefits the whole circular economy, long-term sustainability for their business, for mine, and they have great integrity, so they've already selected products that, you know, comply or meet sort of good environmental and ethical standards. So do that sort of thing. I think eco should actually be everyone's normal. You know, in Glasgow, in Scotland, we have best tap water in the world, pretty much. So why would anyone buy a plastic bottle of water? That
does annoy me, to be honest.
Well, do you know, this morning I looked, because I haven't looked at it before, there's an app called Refill, and any business can put their details on there. But if you look at Refill app and you've got your empty bottle of water or flask or whatever, you can go to any of these places and get a refill. Scottish Water have now put, if I call them standpipes, that sounds a bit elementary, but water refill stations on Buchanan Street and other parts of the city as well. So actually we should be telling people to do that. There shouldn't ever be a need to buy a plastic bottle. So it's those things, you know, just go tomorrow, look at something and change the way you've bought it or what you've bought or how you do it, whether it's energy, water supply, anything that might, everything we do has an impact. So look broadly, I'd say.
Excellent.
And I think actually, Green Tourism has good info on their website, Energy Savings Trust, Waste Scotland, lots of information out there.
Brilliant. Well, before I go to my last question before the audience, obviously you said you ran the business for 7 years. Have you thought about opening up another one anywhere else? Some people tend to get itchy feet around about that sort of time. And
in terms of my itchy feet, I am still working as a surveyor for a renewable energy company. So the cottages business is sort of, I think I'm doing 50-50 in both. I actually want to do more travelling and less business opening. So at the moment, no. I really love our business and what we're doing and the people we meet. We're open all year round. We get a real mix of people, which is lovely. But I don't think I personally want to manage more. I think I want to explore more, rent an EV campervan and tootle off. That's what I like to do.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
So obviously, before I hand over the audience, one of the last questions I always like to ask is something to aid the audience that are here. So if there's anyone here looking to start up an accommodation business, what is the one piece of advice that you would give them to help them start their journey? You know, you've been through it all, you've seen the pitfalls, you've seen the challenges, etc. Is there one piece of advice you would tell them that they need to, if they want to start that journey?
I think for anybody, whether it's a bed sit or a big house that you're renting, just decide what you want to do, how much work you want to do. So you could actually farm out the whole of the marketing, etc., to an agency, or you could do, as we do it, all ourselves. And I much prefer that. But the other thing I would say is just think carefully about your price. Do not sell yourself too short. I think OTAs are obviously massively popular, but it's a wee bit of a race to the bottom. And you know, you might be able to fill more weeks or days or nights over the course of a year. But if actually you're constantly dropping your price to achieve that, you've got to think about your business sustainability, your financial sustainability. And I think sometimes people don't treat it enough as a business. It might not suit people, but that's my advice. Be careful of the race to the bottom.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And me and my family book a lot of like cottages and things like that as well. And you have to have a hot tub. My wife and my kids always have to have a hot tub, whatever that be. But anytime we book up, we don't always go for the cheapest, but we go for what actually just looks nice. We do look at the eco side of it, saying, does it have this eco hot tubs, all that sort of stuff, and we tend to go for that side of things. So yeah, don't compete in price. That's what I mentioned.
I think you've got to decide what you want on holiday. For me, it definitely isn't about the lowest price, because actually it's a particular standard of accommodation. It might be a location, it might be the facilities, but you know, sometimes get what you pay for.
Yeah, no, too true. Does anyone have any questions for Deborah? They want to raise their hands, and Jessica will come running round. There we go. Thank you, Jessica. Running? Okay, no running.
Hello there. You mentioned earlier on the occupancy.
Yeah.
Out the 12 months period of the year, what would your occupancy roughly be, percentage?
I think we are fairly average for Scotland. I think we're around the 60% mark. The one thing I would say about that, though, is that actually we get an awful lot of short bookings, and in terms of turnover or income, the shorter bookings have a higher price per night than perhaps a 7-night booking. So actually, I err when talking about occupancy, because actually our turnover and our finances are very good.
Now, do you see a lot of repeat business?
Yeah.
Yeah,
very much so.
Which is obviously
Love
a positive.
That.
Yeah,
and sometimes,
absolutely.
we might get some people come twice in a year, we get certain people that come once a year, and then maybe it'll be someone's. I had one chappie, he'd been on a stag weekend, came back 2 years later with his family. So it's sort of not always the whole package of people, but again, we've got folks coming next month who've been 3 times before, and I love that. I really love
absolutely.
Fair
that.
enough.
Not just from a business point of view, from a personal point of view.
Yeah, fair
it's
enough, that
great.
just came in how well they love your place, so and how you're doing.
It's obviously satisfying, isn't it, when you get the repeat business, because you're certainly doing something right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any more questions from Deborah? Yep. Amanda?
So talking about repeat business, do you have more domestic tourists than international tourists? And do you think that's because you're not in one of these hot spots that's attracting such over-tourism as we were discussing?
That's really good and relevant and everything. I mainly get more domestic tourists, and I would love more international tourists, because all the international tourists we've had have been wonderful, interesting people. I find their travel pattern different. So I had a family from India who just stayed, and one day they went to Ben Nevis, one to Edinburgh, one to Cairngorm, one to Ayrshire, one to Loch Lomond, rather than just, a domestic visitor might spend more of their time just around Loch Lomond and the Trossachs. Is it because we're not in one of the hotspots? Maybe, maybe not. I think from a Love Loch Lomond perspective, as a destination management organisation, I think it's really important going forward that we create and emphasise the qualities of the destination, because it is Scotland's first national park. Its proximity to Glasgow and Edinburgh is terrific. Maybe that's the disadvantage if someone's come to Edinburgh, they're then hoofing it up to the Isle of Skye, but Loch Lomond's got a lot to offer, so I think it's really important we make the destination marketing work well and reach the right people.
Yep, question.
Hello. I have come with a hat on. I work with a company 2 days a week, free to book, and they're the online software that you yourself use. And one of the things that all the accommodation providers who use that software, it's that constant struggle, the battle between using the OTAs, direct bookings. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts, comments, what's worked for you, and is it a battle for you, and are you winning the war? What are you doing? What tactics are you using to try and help with those direct bookings?
I can't remember the percentage, but most of our bookings are direct. Some people, lovely people, see us on, say, TripAdvisor, and rather than book, go and find us and book direct. Some people don't mind. Some people don't mind paying the commissions and whatnot that OTAs present to them. But I am only on 2, and one is an experiment. I just thought I'd try one of the cottages on one of the OTAs, and I'm not that excited by its performance. So actually for me, direct bookings, key websites, but not OTAs, key websites where I'm trying to get to my target audiences. I really am a big fan of families, 3-generation groups, very happy to have stag and hen weekends. It has worked well for us. And I think, we're very disabled accessible as well. So I think, that's an important area for us. But I think we are winning the battle. I think there is always the need as a business owner to check, refresh, look at your website, check things are going okay, working okay. But I think sometimes, I think it's important to look at them, but hopefully be successful in other ways.
I think on that, actually, I know I do this, and I know many other people do it through the research we've done, but people will go into Airbnb, they'll go into these other places, but then they'll go off to see if they can find an actual website for that business, because sometimes it might be cheaper or whatever that would be, or can get better deals or whatever, but just to have a proper look at the place as well. So customers are getting more savvier these days.
Like a lot of places, our best prices are for booking direct, because I don't want to pay someone else's commission. So, but a lot of folks aren't aware that the OTAs charge commissions. So,
Any other questions?
I was just going to say that today a Canadian traveller said to me that he spotted a change on TripAdvisor in that they would now seem to be more of a OTA than a sort of free and fair reference point for.
Don't get me started on TripAdvisor.
That's someone not involved in the tourist industry, except as a tourist. So I was quite pleasantly surprised to hear that, because I think as more people become aware of that, they'll do exactly what you're.
TripAdvisor is no longer it used to be a place you can go and see reviews and everything else, and you know those reviews were real, they were ranked in a certain order. Now it's all whoever pays more. If you're using a different booking platform, it's no longer the platform it used to be, in my opinion. But yeah, I could speak all day on this. So don't.
I think it is no longer the platform it used to be. For me, I do still have people looking at our reviews, and they might have found me direct or just Googling or whatever, and then they'll look at the cottage, think that's great. Then they might look at TripAdvisor for reviews. What amazed me 7.5 years ago when I set up was that you had to pay to be on it. This was my naivety as a traveller and a customer and whatnot, that actually accommodation providers self-catering had to advertise with holiday lettings who were owned by TripAdvisor in order to get reviews on there. And, I had a lot to learn at that point. But, I think it's interesting that your traveller has observed a difference as a customer, as a consumer.
That is really interesting. Yeah. Yep, Jessica's got a question herself.
I do have a question. I was wondering with the eco-travel or other variant terms, how much of that plays a part in your sales techniques, and do you actually attribute a lot of your sales coming directly because of the eco side, or are they more just general and that's an added bonus, so it's a secondary reason that someone might have booked with you?
For most people, it is not the primary reason. For some people, it is. We've had people come and stay because they want to build their own house. They're interested in our backstory. The technologies, they're not high-tech houses in many respects, but they've got ground source heat pump, mechanical heat recovery. They are self-sustaining. We generate over 70% of our own electricity on site. It used to be nearly 100%. But then we put EV chargers in and got an electric car. So it's still fantastic, but it's about 70% over the course of the year. It's predominantly solar. We're in the central Scotland. It's a lot of things that people are interested in and come and talk about. But first and foremost, people are booking Loch Lomond as a location. They're booking a high standard of accommodation. I think those are the two headliners. European visitors expect a high standard of environmental approach. Others don't. But at the end of the day, we can demonstrate, if you're sitting in our cottage in the middle of winter, you will never get cold, ever. It doesn't happen. So at that point, people go home and go, oh, that ground source heat pump stuff, that really works. So, we're not preaching, but we are promoting that it does what it says on the tin. This works. You won't suddenly be cold because it's an eco house. So a bit of both, really. I think people like the message, but first and foremost, it's the location.
Excellent. Any last questions? If someone wanted to book from you, what would be the best website to go to?
LochLomondHolidayCottage.com. Thank you.
No, on that about people just going to sort of see, my wife's an architect, so we're already planning to book up. So yeah, she wants to come along and see it as well.
Don't tell her we haven't got any hot tubs.
That's okay, that's all right. Sorry. See, but I'm not bothered, it's them. What can I say?
We've got sheep, hens, bees,
the
lots
kids
of
will love
stuff
that.
for the kids.
Yeah.
But no hot tubs.
That's it. We'll take a paddling pool with me. That'll be.
Yeah. Loch Lomond's just down the hill.
Yeah, just go jumping up. Maybe a bit cold. There we go. But no, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you,
Absolutely
Chris.
Interesting. No problem at all. Can everybody please give a warm thank you to